Welcome to It Takes Two. I'm Blair.
I'm Chris.
And today we'll be talking about Couples Therapy, Season 4, Episode 15.
I need you to subscribe, like, share, comment, all the above. I'm enjoying the season so far. You ready, Blair?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
So people tell themselves a story to make sense of their life, and the therapist asks questions to pull threads so the narrative can change, and that can be hard for some people.
I like that.
We learned that Boris and Jessica left the process, and Orna isn't too sure it's who quit. I think she thinks it's him, but she can't be too sure.
Yeah.
Orna tried to have her address his hunger, give him more empathy, but that didn't work. He would always say it wasn't enough or wasn't good enough. Anytime she brought a different perspective between his experience and her experience, she was useless to him. When patients leave, she does self-examine to see where she could have done things differently. In hindsight, maybe she should have gone slower and not bring up too much, but there is pressure when you want a lot for your patients.
Here's the thing about it. I love the fact that Orna is willing to take accountability for someone else quitting. Right? The fact that she's willing to sit with her colleague, someone that she looks up to, as the fact that she's willing to even keep studying, keep researching, doing some self-examination of, you know what, did I push too hard? You know what, shouldn't I have started maybe a little bit softer, slower, maybe be good cop to him first and then work my way backwards? You get what I'm saying? I like the fact that she did that, but at the end of the day, the reality is, if you can't handle the heat, stay out the kitchen, right? At the end of the day, whatever story you told yourself have to face the story of reality, and the reality is, Boris, you are not happy with yourself, so everyone has to be miserable. And that's the thing about it. I understand that you told yourself this story. I understand that in your story, I am supposed to be the supporting wife, that basically whatever you feel on Tuesday that's different than Thursday, I'm supposed to get up and uproot our life with our child, and I'm supposed to basically serve your feelings and serve how you feel and things of that nature, your thoughts. But that's not the reality. That's just your story.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I'm not a participant in your story. You get what I'm saying? I'm a participant in reality. And in reality, I think Boris really do need to do some like self-therapy, some self-examination, as Orna's doing for losing her patience.
Yeah. I feel like you said that perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, how I would think about the situation.
Yeah.
So we move on to Allison and Rod. Allison says that she was on a treadmill by herself, thinking that she would be saved by some external factor, but now she's doing the work internally.
Okay.
And Rod asked her, where does the anger come from? She talks about her basically relationship with her dad, and with her dad, it was easier to distract than to deal. Something would happen, then he would just come back an hour or two later and act as if everything's okay.
Yeah.
He said, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. She gets upset because he used to say that to her when they were first dating, and it used to hurt her feelings. She notices that she's catching herself before getting worked up and going off a lot more now, and he thinks that she's interrupting less. He is more involved in conversations and not taking a step back.
Yeah.
She needs to respect him instead of try to fix him, and he says, because I'm not broken. And she says, well, I'm not saying that you're broken. Orna speaks up and says, you know, what Rod is trying to tell you is this is the information, this is what he's receiving by your actions.
Okay.
And Allison talks about how today was a better day. He kissed her and made her feel calmer, and she knew she needed to back off and stop being overbearing. She's heard that when she's heard more when she's calmer instead of when she's barking, and it was easier to bark than to deal, kind of like how her dad used to, you know, distract and then deal.
Yeah.
Rod talked to his mom more growing up. He was a quiet guy, talking about his father was a quiet guy, and his dad being a quiet guy used to upset his mother. She wanted more conversation out of him. And he says that he has his mom's anxiety and his dad's reservedness. He would, as a child, feel sad watching their dynamic. His parents would have an argument and he would have to just disengage, leave the house. He would yell and scream because they were yelling and just cover his ears. His parents got divorced in his 20s and he was actually relieved. Their daughter has screamed and gotten upset when they argue, and he doesn't want her to witness what he had to deal with his parents.
I have a question for you, Blair.
Yeah.
Based on especially the starting point with Allison, with you, right? I have to say, do you think that Allison may be like potentially your favorite character on this season of couples therapy?
She's not my favorite.
Okay.
Just because her particular personality type is hard for me to connect with.
Okay.
People who are super reactive and who have no like grace or kindness to their speech.
Yeah.
So I can't put her as a favorite, but I will say most improved.
Okay.
That I can tell, because she's come a very long way. I will say that with her personality type, I didn't think that she would be as receptive as she's being, and the way that she's catching herself. I just didn't think that she would have the awareness to stop herself in her tracks.
Yeah.
I always thought that her like actions were just always ahead of her brain, so to speak. And to see her saying that she has been taking the time to slow down and to stop herself, I was actually shocked that she could do that. Yeah.
You shocked?
Yeah.
Listen, I 100% give Allison 100 thumbs up. Right? Because, and I give Rod some thumbs up, even though we gonna get into Rod later on in the series, but I give Rod some thumbs up because even in the session here, he says something that triggered her, right? And she was about to your point, react.
Yeah.
Right? But she had to use what she just learned, right, in therapy, and hey, how about instead of anger being your default emotion, let's go to that hurts my feelings when you do that, right? And truth be told, if you're always angry about everything, it's kind of hard for me to decipher what really makes you angry, if everything makes you angry. So now, since you say, as the wife, as the one that is hurt, that this hurts me when you say this, now the accountability and the responsibility is on Rod to make the change. That's why you got to have conversation and not react to your point, Blair. The reason why I like Allison is because this is what real therapy looks like. It doesn't look like I tell you what to do in one session and then I go home and I just perfectly do it like throughout the week. They have been going through therapy for periods and periods of time. Throughout the time of them going to therapy, you hear Rod basically say, hey, when we argue, our daughter be crying and sometimes she be the mediator. You get what I'm saying? So there is a lot of there's a lot of bad habits that Allison have to basically drop off. And to basically start a new habit, they say it takes like 21 days or something like that to start a new habit. So the fact that, hey, I'm actually catching myself, I'm actually thinking and trying to basically use what I just learned instead of doing what I'm used to, I give her 100% respect on that. That doesn't mean that she always get it right. I don't even think she get it right most of the time, to be honest. But it's the fact that she's becoming aware. And now that she's becoming aware, the accountability and the responsibility of what she learned in Orna's office got to be on her now. And I like the fact that baby steps before she starts, running. So I like Allison.
Right. So we move on to Kyle and Mondo.
Yeah.
Mondo was raised on conditional love with his parents. He comes from a Christian Mexican family. He was the black sheep of the family, and he was beaten by his parents for being gay. Yep. He even got hit over the head with the Bible.
Literally.
And his mother did everything she could to try to get him straight, even going to a witch doctor to try to turn him straight.
Interesting.
Hit him with the head with the Bible and then going to the witch doctor the next day is wild. So he just wanted to be loved by his parents. He said what he had to say to get through, but it wasn't until his early 30s that he told them, I'm gay and this is just what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So Orna says that he distorted himself to keep a connection with his family. And Mondo explains that Kyle also gives him conditional love. Kyle says that he went to a gay bar. There was a guy who was hanging with them both, but he started paying more attention to Kyle rather than Mondo. Kyle made out with this guy. Mondo was like away at the bar, so he felt like it was safe to do that with him because it's not like they were hiding it.
Yeah.
Mondo saw it differently. He feels like there is a racial element to their relationship. Kyle is white, Mondo is Mexican, and there are white men that are attracted to Kyle. He was not feeling good because the man kind of like gestured to Mondo, and Kyle was feeling good because he was being validated by this man, and Kyle gets flirted with. Mondo is ignored and dismissed by these white men.
Yeah.
He sees himself being rejected by his partner by not acknowledging his presence, especially around strangers, and he takes a step back because he does want Kyle to enjoy himself. is it the right opportunity to bring up the issue is what Mondo wonders in those situations, and he doesn't think it is. Orna tells him, well, what's an alternative to retreating? How can you guys try to keep each other included? And that's the task for them to think about.
Here's the thing about it. I'll actually go first on this one, Blair.
Sure.
Because I'm trying to be nice. I'm not trying to be mean. This may be... I like the premise of how Orna started this episode that you read, that we tell ourselves these stories to make sense of our lives, to paraphrase. But it may not be the real reality of, the truth, right? I think this is an example of what Mondo is doing. Mondo is basically, hey, this is a biracial relationship, and I don't think we really talk about that enough in our relationship, basically, right? Okay. And I think this may be a story that Mondo is telling himself about their relationship that may be a stumbling block in their relationship to him. But the reality, in my opinion, that, hey, the stumbling block is Kyle don't want to be monogamous, right? I never got the feeling, and granted, I don't know, that Kyle just wants to be with I am in a monogamous relationship, kind of, with this biracial guy, with this Mexican guy and things like that. But really, I'm with white men and things like that, and I get validation from white men. If anything, I'm like, Kyle be talking to like people who are deaf more, based on what we have heard in this series. And I'm like, Mondo, I understand what you're doing. I understand that these may be facts that you are basically piecing together to tell a story about, hey, this may be a problem in our relationship. But I think the problem in the relationship is that Kyle likes validation from other people besides the person that he's in a monogamous relationship with. And I think that's the biggest issue. I don't care if it was white, black, or like whatever it is. I think Kyle just don't want to be with one person at a time.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That the overarching theme is that Kyle wants to be open and Mondo would prefer to be monogamous. Yeah. And I think that what hurts Mondo even more, which is like a secondary issue, is that Kyle is enjoying the validation and the company of people that Mondo could never be.
Yeah, that's facts.
The fact that you are going after or entertaining deaf men, the fact that you are with white men, the fact that you guys don't have to kind of think about or have these pieces of life where you have to come together on because y'all get each other in a specific type of way. Yeah. And I think that is what's kind of breaking Mondo down as well. It's like, okay, it would be one thing if you wanted to be open and you were hanging out with other people like me, but I can't compare to the people that you choose. Yeah. I'm nothing like these people. I don't have much in common with them other than the fact that we're gay. Yeah. And I think that's where he's struggling too with his choice in men. So
no, I think that was excellent. I think that was excellently said.
Thank you, baby.
On your part right there. Yep.
So we get to Nick and Catherine.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't hide it.
They're more of a talking, or he's more of a talking with his like feelings in his body versus like direct issues to where we can actually fix.
I just don't speak Nick. I just don't,
So he's having a tough time being in therapy.
Of course.
Sharing what he went through in college because that was something he held on to for so long.
Yeah.
And Orna tells him, well, maybe holding on to it is just as important as the secret itself. Nick said during their ayahuasca experiment or moment, he had shocks and shakes during negative thoughts, and sometimes he shakes when he has negative thoughts even now.
Yeah.
Catherine says that his mom died from Parkinson's. Maybe it's related in some type of way, but she always felt like he had some type of deep similarity to his mother. Nick agrees that's correct, but it's also upsetting because there was a lot that he didn't like about his mom, and it also relates to some self-hate he has with himself.
Okay.
Catherine said that he would have no privacy. She would look through all of his things. And Orna mentions, okay, so there was possessiveness and some type of looking for something wrong. Catherine explains that that's why the college thing was so devastating, because it was an attack on his privacy, and he even is like that with her at times. He didn't feel like he was resisting during the ayahuasca journey. He wanted her to take the pain from his legs, but she couldn't, and for him it felt like shame, grief physically manifested. Orna says, well, maybe the grief and anger became an it, and someone else had to deal with it. Then it's a war and a struggle, and she's seen him try to own it and speak it, but it's done with a lot of ambivalence. Like, you want to tell me, you don't want to tell me, you want to tell the whole story, you kind of don't want to, you kind of want your wife to say it for you. And Nick says just the conversation is making him uncomfortable. He feels like he's having an anxiety attack, and Orna tells him, well, you are in the hot seat. He thinks Orna is touching on something that he's trying to avoid, so he has to take a minute to walk out of the session. And Orna says that he keeps a lid over it all, but he's in a lot of pain and it's hurting the both of them.
To make light of it, me and Blair was laughing during this session because we was like, is his wife trying to like diagnose him with Parkinson's? Like it just seems like,
yeah, what's the connection?
Like what's the connection here? Like, and here's the thing about it, right? I'm all for being a partner to your partner, in the sense of I'm here to support you, even if that means just my presence, right? But that's the most support you will get from me. Especially when it's therapy, especially when it's pertaining to improving and helping you get over what you're going through. The most thing I can do is give you presence. I can't be your mouthpiece, right? Because what I see happening here is that she would say something, and then it just seems like his thing is to automatically go, well, yeah, that may be it. But like, you know, that sucks, because truth be told, I low-key hate my mother. So it's like then, but okay, is it true?
So what is your perspective?
Exactly.
Like,
so
what do you think?
So he's not even owning his own words, right? Last episode, we titled that "Owning Your Own Story" and things like that. But he's not even owning the conversation that he is partaking in right now. You get what I'm saying? And I understand that anxiety is real. I don't feel anxious and things like that, or I don't have those type of attacks. But I've seen people have them, and they are real, right? Where the room just automatically just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think I wonder, did that retreat cause more harm than help, right? Because they basically put him in a room by himself, right? They isolated him, right? Basically we gonna put you in the chute, you know what I mean? And we gonna try to basically physically remove the grief from you, physically remove the pain that you're going through, kind of like shock therapy and things like that. And I understand that some people may believe in that, and for some people it may work. But I think what happened is that kind of pushed them back to not speak it out. Basically, if you go back to a couple episodes ago where Blair was saying that now Orna kind of feels like she has to physically pull it out of him, where really that's not how you get over things. That's not how things come to a resolve. Things come to a resolve. It's a collaboration. It is not it feels like we are playing. This is the perfect analogy. It just came to my head. It just feels like we are playing the game Operation with Nick, right? He's sitting there, and we got to carefully talk about something. And when, let's say, he doesn't say something, or when he feels something, and, you know, you're hitting the edges of trying to get the bone out. And I'm like, hey, listen, this is not a surgery to where we got to put you under and then we just fix you up. This is therapy. You have to talk. You have to be you have to collaborate with me so we can figure out what tools to give you so you can get over this. And I think that retreat really kind of caused some regression in him actually talking and actually putting things together, besides him relying on Captain to interpret it for him, and besides really lean on Orna to interpret for him. But Orna, like, I don't know you, so it's like, you got to talk.
Yeah. I feel like this is why therapy is such a great tool, because some people really do not even have the bare minimum tools, to me, to actually speak up for themselves.
Okay.
And so even though Orna can't necessarily pull it out of him, I think her touching on it, having him sit in it, and bringing it to like his present consciousness instead of it something that they constantly push in the back of how he's feeling or what he's been through and never really addressing it. The fact that he's here and it's in his face and he can't stand the heat necessarily. He has to get up and, collect himself, but maybe this is part of the process to get him to the other side. And personally, I find it frustrating because I feel like for people, if you don't want to be understood, then I'm not going to understand.
Okay.
And I feel like Nick isn't wanting to be understood. It seems like he wants to hold in everything that he's going through and that he's been through. And it's his wife is the one who actually wants him to improve for the betterment of himself and their relationship. And I feel like it has to be the individual who wants better for their situation in order to put in the effort for them to get to the other side. And I feel like Catherine is pretty much dragging him to a better relationship. And there are definitely things that within the dynamic that she could improve, of basically listening to him, understanding where he's coming from. But I still feel like majority of the miscommunication and weight falls on him because he's not clear, he's not direct, he's not forthcoming with how he feels about situations, and she's left to decipher, which she probably knows how to, but it also gets to be exhausting. So he has to want it, and I don't know right now if he does, more than he wants the comfort of not thinking about it. And even though he's probably one of my least favorite people on this season, I will give him credit. At least he's showing up, Boris. Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, like he's here.
But he ain't talking.
He ain't being good at it. But at least he's here, and at least he's willing to continuously put himself in the hot seat. You get what I'm saying? As Orna call it. Anything else?
That's all we got.
Listen, subscribe, like, share, comment. We will release the rest of the episodes when we can. But we seen the whole show. We see y'all.
Bye.